We framed this exercise in the context of what projects could you do to make money. And we did that because money is a representation of value. But the exercise is really about what projects can you do that will create value for others. In other words, what are the ways that you can serve and provide a value for others, and ideally that they will pay for? Does that make sense? Because money is simply a measurement of value. As we talked about yesterday, money is simply a way of assessing to what extent am I providing value to others in a way that they find meaningful, right? Because you can provide value to others, they may not find it meaningful at all, and they wouldn't be willing to pay anything for it. Even with a nonprofit organization, for example, a charitable activity, if the value that's being provided is really something of great value, then donors are going to be willing to donate to support that activity. Isn't that true? Yeah. Mother Teresa took a vow of poverty. And yes, during her lifetime, she raised millions and millions and millions of dollars for her projects because people saw her projects as being valuable. So this really, whether you think of it in terms of what will make me the most money or not, I think it's valuable to use that because it's a good measurement of to what extent not only am I providing value, but to what extent am I providing value in a way that others find valuable. Does that make sense? Because you can provide lots of value, but it's value that someone else could care less about, you know? But if you're providing value that meets a need that someone has, and that need is significant, then would you all agree that they'll be willing to pay for it? And either they'll pay themselves or a donor would be willing to pay to be able to make that value available to them. Does that make sense? Okay. So take a minute now and rate your top 3 projects on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 means it would generate no income for you in the coming year. 10 means it would generate lots of income for you, as the most amount. And in between is somewhere in between. And you're just making a subjective guess here, okay? I get that you probably don't know how much income a given project might generate. So based upon what you know about yourself and about the market or the people that you'd be serving, make an educated guess. So anybody for anyone, are your top 3 projects 0s, 1s, or 2s? Or 3s? Okay? So what that means is that you need to add to this list a project that may not be as aligned with your passions, but which will generate more income for you. Unless you don't need income, okay? If you don't need income, I mean, some people may be in the situation that you have savings or you have investments or whatever, so you don't need the income immediately. If that's your situation, then you don't need to just do the projects that you've done. But if you have projects that are not going to generate income and it's necessary or important for you to generate income in the coming year, then you need to look at the other projects on your list. And you can go through and do the same exercise on your own, rate all of the projects in terms of how much income could they generate, and then take one of the projects that you can see that would generate the highest income, add it to the ones that won't generate any, so that you're generating income as you're working on your passion projects. Make sense? Everybody with me? Okay. If you should have the experience that you look at your projects and none of your 10 projects will generate any income and you need income, then what I would recommend then is to look at what you've done in the past that has allowed you to make income, and or what are your skills and talents as opposed to your passions that you could be hired for those skills or talents in some way, shape, or form, and then add that to your project list, your top 3 project list. Because unless you don't need income, even as you're following your passions, you need, part of getting to living your passionate life is to have the income, have the sustenance to be able to move closer and closer in the direction of living your passions fully. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Michelle.
Okay.
Oh, talking stick.
Right here. James.
James has this old habit of calling it a microphone. Yeah.
So I don't have to stress out about my list if I have like a real job that is generating income.
That's
I
right.
can pick a bunch of, they could generate nothing or they could generate like a ton of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
The key thing here is to remember what Janet said yesterday. You know, there may be a few people in the world, like our dear Janet, who can jump off a cliff, look for the parachute on the way down, and it shows up, you know? For most of us, it's not a good idea to count on that, you know? It's a good idea to just have some level of safety so that you're not worried and anxious and completely going out of your mind about how am I going to pay the bills while you're, because that's not going to help you live your passions, is it? Everyone say no, 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 right? So the next step is on the second page of lesson 23. So this is page 72. I'd like you to take just a moment right now. Don't take the time to write the project. You have the project on the other page. Just make a guess, an estimate of the amount of income you intend to make from each of those projects during the coming year. Okay, this is an intention statement. And your intention statement should be something that you feel is believable. What's the word? Believable. But stretches a little beyond what might be automatic. Does that make sense? So if you feel like, oh, I could make $10,000 with this, no problem in the coming year, then maybe you set your intention for $15,000. That make sense? No. So, or $12,000. Take whatever you think, I could definitely make this amount of money, stretch it just a little. Not a lot, just a little. Just so $10,000, $12,000, like that. Okay? So just take 1 minute now. For each of your top three, make your intention for the income that each will bring to you. These are your intentions. What's the word? Your financial intentions. Say it with me. Financial intentions. For these projects, okay? And if you need to, you know, if you have an existing job, or if you need to have a job that may not be one of your passion projects, then add it, okay? Add the income. On that page, add the income from that so that you can do your total projected increase in monthly income, or you can do annual income, doesn't matter. But you're going to do a total of how much are you going to increase your income. Actually, if you have an existing job, this is about how much you would increase your income from what it is right now through these projects, okay? The next page, this is 73 in this workbook. Next page, you're going to just, you made a list of all your expenses last night, right? So you made a list of all your expenses in the previous lesson. You're just going to take a moment now, and we're just going to take 1 minute to do this. But just look at those. You can look at what you did last night and note where do you think you could reduce any of these expenses and by how much. Okay? And this is monthly expenses. If you use annual expenses, then stick with annual. If you use monthly expenses, stick with monthly. We asked you to do monthly last night, so this, I would say, do this monthly. And just make a note of any of these expenses that you could reduce, okay? That you could reduce the expense, and it feels comfortable to you. You know, not like you're that's going to be awful. Okay? And when you've got that number, what you're going to do then is take your projected increase in your monthly income. Okay, so I gave us the wrong. You don't want to include your existing job. Okay. So take your total, how much you're going to increase your monthly income from what it is right now, and how much you're going to reduce your expenses, and you're going to calculate a number. Your increase in income plus your decrease in expenses will give you a total projected surplus. Projected increase in your surplus.